The year is 1991. Despite a series of financial setbacks and the creation of the first Lamborghini to compete in Formula One history, Lambo Modena has made it to the United States Grand Prix in Phoenix, Arizona to show the world what their brand new car can do. Drivers Nicola Larini, a former F3 champ and Colonia Nacella driver, and Eric Van de Poel, the 1987 German touring car champion and 1990 F3000 runner-up, immediately prove that they deserve their spots on the grid. Larini manages to kick the season off with a bang and places on the grid in 17th place, only 4.35 seconds off pole position. During the race itself, driving against famed drivers such as Ayrton Senna in a McLaren, Alain Prost in a Ferrari, and future two-time Grand Prix champ Mika Hakkinen in his first F1 season, Larini held his own and ended up in 7th place, albeit 5 laps behind winner Ayrton Senna. Lambo Modena had shown their potential, but by the end of the season, the team was gone. In this episode, we explore the famous one-season wonders of Formula One and the many reasons why they never developed past their maiden journey on the grid. From engineering failures to major credit card sponsors running out of money, to flawed designs purchased from previously successful teams, and even a team owner that gets arrested mid-race weekend. Today on Past Gas, the 7 one-season wonders of the world and the reasons they failed to make it past their first season. Get your race helmet on and buckle in. It's Past Gas.
Past Gas Podcast. It's about cars, it's not about sports.
Big old thanks to Valvoline for sponsoring this episode of Past Gas. Did you guys know that Valvoline is the original motor oil? I mean, I say it every week, but it's never not true. Not only were they the first patented motor oil brand, but they've also had many firsts in the industry, like the first high mileage oil, the first synthetic blend, and the first racing oil. And since over 150 years ago, they've never stopped innovating. They're constantly reinventing formulas to provide the ultimate protection for every engine on the road today. In fact, every motor oil that Valvoline makes has recently been reformulated to provide 40% better wear protection than industry standards. It's proven to maximize engine life by fighting the 4 main causes of engine breakdown, which are heat, friction, wear, and deposits. Another reason we love Valvoline? Well, they're synonymous with some of the racing greats like Cale Yarborough, AJ Foyt, Chase Elliott, Mark Martin. I use Valvoline whenever I have to change my oil because it's great, it's reliable, and my favorite racing legend, Nolan Sykes, uses it. So do yourself a favor and make sure you choose Valvoline. Head over to valvoline.com/original to find the right oil for your engine. Thank you, Valvoline.
One and done. You one and done. You're done. After one.
Wow. That was a one and done intro. Thank you very much, James.
You're welcome, dude. Anything for you.
Thank you. Guys, I'm curious with this theme. Is there anything in your life that you've only done one and done? Have any instances of that?
School.
I
went to kindergarten. I was like, no thanks.
You're a kindergarten dropout?
Yeah. So with like these scripts and stuff, what I do is I have my girlfriend read them to me over and over and over in the days leading up to the recording session. And I memorize them.
Wow.
Because I don't know how to read because I didn't go to school.
I when I first started at Donut, I was like, James, why are you cutting and pasting? And he's like, I'm writing a script, dumbass.
Yeah.
And I realized that he didn't know how to spell any words, but he would bring up like a thesaurus and just copy and paste the words in until there is a whole script written.
Listen, yeah, I would have Google. I would just hit next, and Google reads it out loud. I never learned how to read or write or anything, but I did learn how to share. I did learn how to snack, and I did learn how to nap, and I did learn how to get my mom to pick me up.
Well, those are all very important life skills, but this is not a self-help podcast. Everybody, welcome to Past Gas. I'm your host, Nolan Sykes, joined as always by we got Joe Weber.
Keep it G's.
And kindergarten valedictorian, James Pumphrey.
Big old lap full of ribs.
That's a reference to the D list that James and I shot yesterday. We were testing the hardest foods to eat while driving, and ribs was one of them.
Ribs, not super hard, definitely messy to eat in a car, but it makes up for it because it's hilarious looking.
Yes.
Did you test like chestnuts and like
we did
other hard foods to eat?
We did chicken wings with ranch. We did ribs. We did king crab legs. We did cereal. Cereal was fun.
Big bowl of cereal.
Yeah.
That is funny.
Big old lap full of ribs.
And some other ones that you're gonna have to watch the video to find out. So D-list if you haven't seen.
Wasn't there a donut video a long time ago that it was like when we were still doing viral videos of James eating a burrito in the back seat of a drift car or something like that?
Spaghetti.
Oh.
And then I also shaved my face.
That's terrifying to me.
The worst part of that was the mouthwash got in my eyes.
Ooh.
Oh, God.
Ooh. Minty fresh.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Mouthwash to the eye is better than crab legs to the eye.
Those things are sharp, man. They're pokey.
And it's better than fondue skewer to the eye.
Ow.
Yeah. Hey, don't give it away. Don't give it away, James.
I think it's probably going to air by the time this goes out.
Oh, I hope so. All right. Well, anyway, check out that video.
I just realized we're doing One Season Wonders this episode, and we were just singing The Story of a Girl by 9 Days. I don't know any other 9 Days songs.
No, me neither. What if they did like a adult contemporary cover of like Judith by A Perfect Circle?
I don't know that song.
Oh.
There's always these new metal references that you have from like 2004.
First of all, I don't think they're a new metal band. I don't think A Perfect Circle is a new metal band.
What would you call them?
Like I
don't know.
Rock. Prog rock, definitely. I mean, like it's
What about post new metal?
No, I don't even think Tool is new metal. Would you consider them Tool new metal?
No, Tool's not new metal. Tool is definitely prog rock.
Yeah.
Tool with a hint of math rock in there too.
Yeah, 10/26 time.
Yeah.
Anyway,
speaking of 10/26, let's
10/26 right into the script, huh? Let's do it. Okay. The teams we're talking about today have some varying levels of success. While none stuck around, some of them were ahead of their time or simply ran out of funding. But which team was the worst? Well, meet Andrea Moda, a team that participated in 9 World Championship Grand Prix, but only managed to qualify once. This story begins in 1991, when Enzo Coloni decided to dump his Coloni F1 team. In swooped Andrea Sassetti, an Italian shoe magnate who thought 8 million pounds could bring some soul to the team.
Ooh.
He changed the name from Coloni to Andrea Moda, named after his fashion business, and decided to kick things off by producing a brochure of his new car that featured a shadowy nude female saxophonist.
Nice. Hell yes.
You don't really see nudity and the saxophone mixed together too often, so.
And it's a crime.
It's because I think seeing someone's diaphragm and all their saxophone muscles when they're naked is not.
You're tripping.
What? Why?
Saxophone is the sexiest instrument, and naked is the sexiest outfit.
Well, anyway, Sassetti quickly lined up a new 72-degree angle V10 engine made by Judd. Okay, they're a manufacturer of racing engines, and Dallara gearbox, which was the same company used by Ferrari that year. They used this combination in the back of an existing Coloni C4 chassis. Unfortunately, when the team arrived in South Africa for round 1 of the 1992 season, there were protests that Andrea Moda was technically a new team and thus required to pay a $100,000 fee as a new entrant. Sassetti assumed that he had merely inherited Coloni, despite a new powertrain and new name for the team, but a verdict was soon reached. Coloni had sold his team's equipment, but not his entry, and without paying the entrance fee, Andrea Moda was removed from the event. Sassetti was angry, but left the race thinking this could give him the opportunity to design his own chassis before the next race in 2 weeks.
I mean, how hard could it be? You got 2 full weeks.
That's 1 week per 2 wheels.
It's like 2 motorcycles with a little house in the middle.
Sassetti bought prototype designs from the Simtech Design Company and set his mechanics to work. The Andrea Moda team, plus some temp mechanics due to the tight turnaround, worked feverishly to build the 2 new chassis dubbed the S921. However, by the time the completed chassis were sent to Mexico 2 weeks later, Sassetti flippantly withdrew their entry, citing extenuating circumstances caused by freight delays. This pissed off everyone who worked around the clock to get their work done, as well as his 2 drivers, Alex Caffey and Enrico Bertaggia, who were furious they had to sit out their second race of the season. Sassetti then pulled the ultimate egomaniac card and fired his drivers. Thus, instead of preparing to build 2 chassis in 2 weeks, Andrea Moda would need to find 2 drivers as well. And somehow he pulled it off and hired Roberto Moreno and Perry McCarthy. But their driver troubles didn't end there. McCarthy's super license was revoked before pre-qualifying at Interlagos in Brazil, so Moreno was left as the team's sole driver for the Brazilian Grand Prix. Moreno was 15 seconds off the pre-qualifying pace in practice and thus disqualified from participating. There's a certain speed threshold you have to meet.
Yeah.
And they did not. Otherwise, it's dangerous. You can't have like a super slow car on track.
Yeah, sorry, Grandma. Maybe next year.
This feels like a team that run by Homer Simpson. And like Bart's the driver.
Oh, so it's like a season 23 episode?
Uh-huh.
Well, anyway, right after the Brazilian Grand Prix, McCarthy was given his super license back and was ready to race. However, Bertaggia, one of the original drivers, came crawling back to Sassetti with $1 million of sponsorship money. Ever the fickle rich guy, Sassetti wanted to replace McCarthy with Bertaggia, but was told that he had used up his allocated number of driver changes. So basically, Sassetti had 2 cars, one of which barely ran and the other that couldn't qualify, and a driver he didn't want. What followed, though, were 2 practice sessions at both Barcelona and San Marino, in which both cars' engines cut out. And then finally, Moreno qualified in Monaco, of all places. The team was thrilled. Pop the champagne, play the anthem, and then watch as the engine cuts out after only 11 laps. Oof.
Big oof.
Big time oof. But guess what, guys? This crazy story that I'm telling you gets even crazier. Before the next race in Canada, a suspected case of arson destroyed Sassetti's Italian discotheque.
Oh, no, not my Italian discotheque.
And as he
Italian discotheque.
Well, James, as he was fleeing the flames, a gunman shot at him.
Yeah.
And to make matters somehow worse, the owner showed up in Montreal to learn that while his 2 chassis were there, the engines hadn't made their flight.
Oh.
That's a bad year.
How does that happen? Even after the doomed...
Because the engines were partying the night before and they woke up
I guess
late.
they were at the discotheque. Even after the Doom team borrowed an engine from the Brabham team, Moreno still couldn't hit a qualifying pace. The team returned to Europe and set off for the French Grand Prix. However, on their way to the race, a blockade built by striking lorry drivers rerouted the main roads throughout France. While all the other teams resorted to the back roads and made it on time, Andrea Moda, perhaps predictably, was the only team to never show up.
Lorry is British for toilet. A bunch of toilet drivers.
I'm a lorry driver, mate.
My dad was a real big lorry driver, if you know what I mean. Took big poops.
And as you can guess, the rest of the season went pretty much the same way for Andrea Moda. Andrea Moda appeared at Silverstone with virtually no sponsorship money, and they couldn't make it past practice there or in Germany or Hungary. However, the pinnacle of their failed season occurred in Belgium when halfway through the race weekend, the Belgian police arrested Sassetti on allegations of fraud. And with that, it was a spectacular end to an awful, awful season. Just kidding. We got a cherry on top for you. Both Judd and Dallara, the makers of the engine and the gearbox respectively, bowed out of building engines for Formula One in 1993, the very next season. Coincidence? You decide.
I think I'm going to use a really underused word right now, but what a maroon.
What
This
a
guy was
maroon,
like
man.
a straight up maroon, dude.
Just a clown. He just doesn't. It's one of those rich guys that's like, yeah, I could compete against car
I
manufacturers.
feel like I know this guy. Like I know versions of this guy.
Yeah, it's not a surprise at all that he owns a discotheque.
Yeah, a discotheque and like a ugly fashion brand.
I
Yeah.
think there's a certain type of rich guy that like is moderately successful. Like this guy owned a club and a fashion brand, but he thinks that he could like get to that next level of success, you know? And what a bigger sign of success. There's like no other bigger indication than like having a Formula One team.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but he just lacks discipline.
Lacks discipline.
And it's just the ego's like free. Like he thinks he can do anything.
Or yeah, it's like an unearned confidence kind of thing. Okay, like you have a brand and you have a shoe brand and a club. Like
Yeah.
what makes you think that you can run one of the most like demanding and sophisticated like sports
like
operations?
nuanced.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
yo, Gordon Murray doesn't own a discotheque.
Yeah.
Like John Williams does not own a discotheque. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's like when Tony Stark hopped into the F1 car in Iron Man 2. It's like you can't drive that.
I don't drive that Tony Stark.
Come on, Tony Stark. You got a guy. You're paying
Oh
a
no,
guy.
it's the wrestler.
What?
The wrestler's got you.
What, flying around in a $1 trillion mechanical suit that shoots lasers out of its hands isn't enough for you? You got to take away that guy's job too? Screw you, Tony Stark.
Screw you, Tony Stark.
No respect. Anyway,
Yeah.
let's move on.
Well, Andrea Moda could pride themselves on their wild antics. Life Racing Engine's single season in 1990 goes down as perhaps the most pointless and uncompetitive team on record. Take that, Haas.
Oh, burn.
Ooh.
Ooh.
You traitors. To understand how screwed this team was from the jump, we have to travel back 2 years earlier to the 1988 first racing car. This is all caps first. While First never made it to the F1 track, they had been competing as part of Formula 3000 since 1987. And the failures that's probably the year Joe was born, huh?
No, I was 1 by then. I had already graduated college by then.
And the failures of their first Formula One build convinced them to stay in their comfort zone. Then, Life Racing Engines did something very smart and bought First's prototype. There's a great deal of technical information on why the car wasn't well designed, but perhaps the most helpful is that it was described by its own designer as nothing more than an interesting flower pot.
Wow. That's being honest about your work right there.
Uh-huh.
But what they don't tell you is he described everything as a flower pot.
Yeah, he got hit in the head, and he was like, "That's a ugly flower pot. That's a loud flower pot." And like he points to his wife, he's like, "That's a sexy flower
Ooh,
pot."
Yeah. He's like Hodor.
Yeah. Yeah, that I mean, we should have put that in the script. But yeah, that's 100% true. So back to Life Racing. The team was founded by Ernesto Vida, from whose surname the team's name was derived. Vida wanted
I get it. Vida.
life,
Life.
living La Vida Loca.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what that means, Nolan? Living the crazy life.
Yeah, freaking partying with Ricky Martin, man.
Yeah, dude, I party with Ricky Martin about once a month. It's pretty sweet.
That does sound pretty fun.
Mm-hmm. We do like B12
Yeah.
and run like
Yeah.
miles and miles on the beach. It's awesome.
And the non-turmeric route.
Yeah, that's what we call partying when you're in your 30s. Vida wanted to enter Formula One to show off the team's in-house W12
Whoa.
engine. Heck yeah, which was designed to make an engine as compact as a V8 while generating the power of a V12.
Wow.
The team just needed a chassis to put it in. And as we learned in our last story, that's not always easy. What resulted was the Life L190, a car that for the entire season could never manage more than a lap or two before something broke. At Imola, driver Bruno Giacomelli was timed at 424 seconds off the eventual pole time.
What?
Wow.
How many minutes is that?
Yeah,
That sucks. But, I mean, this car looks great, man. It's a beautiful car.
It wasn't until Portugal that the team ditched the W12 experiment, opting to replace the engine with a Judd V8. To the amateur team's horror, the engine cover wouldn't even fit over the Judd. While the car got back on track in Spain, it was still 18 seconds off in pre-qualifying.
Jeez.
And Vita wisely gave up. His engine had only attracted ridicule, not the marketing bump he had expected. And the L190 with the W engine ended up being a car that could only take an L.
Huh. Nice. It's a good-looking car, though. It looks like one of those late 80s Ferraris.
it's got a very pointy nose.
Oh, it's a pointy boy for sure. Yeah. But, man, it kind of, like, it makes me want, like, F1 now, you know, there's, like, there's, you know, specific engine specifications. Like, this era has been, like, you know, turbocharged V6s. Like, that's the only engine you can run. But, like, it makes me wish that, like, teams could just, like, make whatever kind of engines they wanted. Yeah. I mean, they probably all, you know,
would still make a hybrid turbo V6.
Yeah, at some point, because that'd just be, like, whoever was fastest in that first season, you know?
Yeah, it would be cool if they, like, regulated it in a different way. Like, they had emissions standards or something.
Oh.
It's like, as long as you stayed under, like, this displacement, and we're going to put a sensor on your exhaust, we're going to check your emissions every race. But like, you can do whatever you want. They'd probably be mostly electric.
Well, you got to charge those systems, though.
You got to charge those systems.
Don't even get me started on charging systems.
I got to charge my systems. That's my impression of Tony Stark. Hey, watch out, Hulk. I got to go back to the lab and charge my systems.
Great.
One thing you don't know about me, Hulk, I'm always charging my systems.
That's the secret, Bruce Banner. I'm always charging my system.
It's common to see Formula One drivers move into the constructorship space, going from drivers to makers, right? But there are many skeletons along the road to victory, as not every driver who attempted to move to constructing succeeded. Chris Ayman, widely regarded as one of the best F1 drivers to never win a championship, is a crucial example.
Chris Ayman, widely regarded as the only skeleton to ever drive F1.
Chris Ayman was a New Zealander, Kiwi, who after a quick rise to the top in his homeland, was picked up by English racing driver Reg Parnell to drive for Formula One in 1962. At 19 years old, Ayman is still one of the youngest debuts to this day. Although he did well enough, it wasn't until 1966 that he caught the world's attention by partnering with Bruce McLaren to victory at Le Mans in a Gulf Ford GT40. That's right, he was one of those guys. He was then invited to meet with Enzo Ferrari and signed with the team for the 1967 season. He spent 3 unsuccessful years driving for Ferrari, then skipped over to race for March, Matra, and Techno to mild success. So this is
I've never heard
Formula
of Techno before.
Yeah, me neither. I wonder what they're called now. Ayman was described by former Ferrari technical director Mauro Forgieri as possessing, quote, all the qualities to be a world champion, but bad luck just wouldn't let him be. So after a disappointing season in 1973, Chris decided to pivot and race under the banner of Chris Ayman Racing, a team formed around his basic principle. Quote,
I want to keep my team simple as possible, and I don't want to get too caught up in the organizational side of things. I just want to drive. I want to provide myself with a sophisticated chassis, a Cosworth engine, and a small enthusiast collection of people and small flightless birds and koalas within the team.
That's a little artistic license on that quote.
No, never. The team Ayman put together was exactly that, minus the flightless birds and the koala bears. The team started with decent funding and a quality staff, but unfortunately, it wasn't too long before everything unraveled.
That's such a good hook, dude. I am so invested.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Are you ready for this?
Big old thanks to Manscaped for sponsoring this episode of Past Gas. Attention listeners across the galaxy, all the way from Australia to Houston. Do we have a pew problem? If so, our friends at Manscaped have cleared you for takeoff with their 4th generation brand new Lawnmower 4.0. Kick your pubes to the next planet with this Performance Package 4.0. The orbits in your pants will feel like you're in zero gravity when you use the best tools for the job from the leaders in male grooming. Join the 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped and get your rocket ready for takeoff by going to manscaped.com for 20% off plus free shipping with the code GAS20. We've all been there. We've all been teenagers and things getting out of hand below the belt, and you try to trim it and you end up nicking yourself. Manscaped has helped me break past that and maintain the trim without being uncomfortable or itchy or whatever. Are you ready for an out-of-world experience, fellas? Look no further than the Performance Package 4.0 from Manscaped that has just taken off in not only the USA, but Canada, the UK, across Europe, Australia, South Africa, and Singapore. Inside this package, you'll find their Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, Crop Reviver toner, performance boxer briefs, and a travel bag to hold your whole solar system. The Lawnmower 4.0 also has a 4000K LED spotlight you can turn on and off when needed for a more precise shave throughout your travels across the universe. Once I started using the lawnmower, there's no turning back. I love it, and your partner's gonna love it too. The Performance Package 4.0 also includes the Weed Whacker, which is a nose and ear hair trimmer. The Weed Whacker is also waterproof and uses a 9,000 RPM motor-powered 360-degree rotary dual-blade system. Wow, that's a mouthful. This nose and ear hair trimmer provides proprietary skin-safe technology, which help prevents nicks, snags, tugs, tucks, pinches, pokes, whatever in those delicate holes. And don't forget to use the Crop Preserver Ball Deodorant and the Crop Reviver to help your little planets be on their A game while feeling the sun's heat. Manscaped even threw in 2 free gifts to their Performance Package 4.0, the Manscaped Boxers and the Shed Travel Bag. Get 20% off plus free shipping with the code GAS20 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping with the code GAS20 at manscaped.com. For a clean trinity and beyond, your spaceballs will thank you. And I thank Manscaped for sponsoring this episode. Big thanks to Upstart for sponsoring this episode of Past Gas. I know a lot of us in our 20s and 30s, chances are you're carrying a lot of debt right now, and you have a credit card balance month after month. Kind of feels like this never-ending cycle, and it feels like you're trapped. Well, the good news is Upstart can help you make that final payment so you can get ahead, finally be debt-free. Upstart is a fast and easy way to pay off your debt with a personal loan, and everything's online. Whether it's paying off credit cards, consolidating high-interest debt, or funding personal expenses, over 500,000 people have used Upstart to get one fixed monthly payment. Upstart knows that you're more than just a credit score and is expanding access to affordable credit nationwide. Unlike other lenders, Upstart considers your income and your current employment to find you a smarter rate for your loan so that you can finally pay off all that debt. With a 5-minute online rate check, you can see your rate upfront for loans between $1,000 to $50,000. You can receive funds as fast as 1 business day after accepting your loan. I think it's a really good idea to use Upstart to pay off your debt. It sucks being in debt, and once you get free from it, it feels like the chains are finally off and you can live your life. Find out how Upstart can lower your monthly payments today when you go to upstart.com/gas. That's upstart.com/gas. Don't forget to use our URL to let them know we sent you. Loan amounts will be determined based on your credit, income, and certain other information provided in your loan application. Go to upstart.com/gas. Thank you, Upstart. Big thanks to BetterHelp for sponsoring this episode of Past Gas. This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp Online Therapy. Check out betterhelp.com/pastgas. Life is full of stressful stuff. Everything is stressful right now. Doesn't matter who you are or what you have, chances are your life is probably stressful. My work can be stressful. Traffic is stressful. You may not be feeling down and out and depressed or like you're a total loss, but if your stress is high, your temper is shorter than usual, or even you're starting to feel strain in any relationships, you could probably use the chance to unload. BetterHelp is customized online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist, so you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to. And for me, that's pretty cool because I can open up a lot more if I don't see myself being weird on camera. It's much more affordable than in-person therapy, and you can start communicating with your therapist in under 48 hours. Unload the stressors and get some unbiased feedback. You'd be pretty surprised at what you might gain from it. What I really like about BetterHelp is that you don't have to go into an office. You can meet with someone that can take care of your needs all over the computer or over a phone call. You don't have to wait in a waiting room and feel weird about it. This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp, and Past Gas listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/pastgas. That's BetterHelp.com/pastgas. Thank you, BetterHelp.
For the time period, Ayman's car was incredibly forward-thinking. Instead of having multiple fuel tanks surrounding the driver, Ayman and his head designer Gordon Fowle became the first F1 car to install a single central unit between the driver and the engine, which gave the car a lower center of gravity and put the driver in a more forward position. The team also experimented with titanium torsion bars in the suspension instead of coil springs and had inboard brakes, like a old Corvette. And finally, Ayman painted the AF101, named to combine Ayman and Fowle, nice, a sky blue, simply because he wanted it to stand out on the track. I think sky blue is a criminally underrepresented color in motorsports.
Yeah, that's what our baseball team's color is, sky blue.
There you go, the sliders.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man. According to Ayman himself, despite the technological advances, the AF101 was revealed to be a project far too ambitious for his finances. He was confident that his testing would have been enough to develop the car, but every time he tried to drive it, something broke, end quote. I'm not sure what source that's from, but that is a quote. In simple terms, the Ayman car was too expensive to test and maintain, and the team continuously missed qualifying speeds, and thus, the Ayman racing team went the way of Chris Ayman's career, surrounded by an air of bad luck. Dang.
That's a shame. That's
Yeah.
a shame.
He's another one of those guys that is not as successful, but he still hung out with everyone. Like
Yeah.
Enzo Ferrari.
And everyone like respected him. Like
Yeah.
everyone's like, oh, this guy's like good. Ah, man, he just can't catch a break, you know?
Yeah. I mean, his flaps didn't work out. Everyone was trying to get the flaps back then.
The car looks really cool, though.
Another driver turned constructor was Willibert Cowson.
Willibert Cowson.
Willibert. Willibert Cowson.
That's a name.
Uh-huh. Though he was somehow even less successful than Chris Ayman when it came to building cars. Cowson had been a stellar sports car driver who had come in second at Le Mans in 1970, but always dreamed of going into team ownership. In the late 70s, Cowson purchased the Elf Renault 2J Formula 2 cars, which drove well in 1976 at the hands of Michel Leclerc and future champion Jean-Pierre Jabouille. For 1977, the F2 cars were renamed Cowson Renaults, with Leclerc driving alongside Klaus Ludwig, a German guy, obviously. Leclerc took pole for the first race at Silverstone, and it seemed as though Cowson's team would be a success. LOL, not.
Oh, okay. I thought you were serious for a second.
No, they're not. The team started making modifications to the chassis, and each time the car came out worse than before. I can relate. Leclerc hurtled down the rankings and even failed to qualify in some events. Ludwig managed to land in the top 10 a few times before he quit, and his car was subsequently driven by José Dolem, Vittorio Brambilla, and Alain Prost. Yet no one could overcome the clear engineering failures. Not even Alain Prost.
The doctor.
It is not a good chassis.
I am a grown man. I am a man. I am not a baby. But Cowson was unwilling to accept defeat and was determined to enter F1 in 1978. After a deal fell through, Carlson opted to build his own Formula One car for the 1979 season. You know, because he's smart. Dude, like, that's so dumb. Like the hubris, you know?
Yeah. Just unbridled ego. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Carlson hired Klaus Kapitza from Ford, as well as Porsche engineer Kurt Quebec. However, manufacturing proved to be a difficult task. You think? The team only had one metalworker and 3 mechanics to build the car, and between them, zero experience in Formula One design,
that'll
aerodynamics,
work
or
out.
construction.
Great.
We have more mechanics to do Money Pit. The one thing Carlson got right was the concept that ground effect would be the way of the future, as opposed to the 70s wing cars, and he convinced Kapitza to design a Lotus 79 lookalike. Carlson wanted to use Alfa Romeo engines considering his own success in Alphas, but later had to opt for a Cosworth DFV, which is not a bad engine at all.
Yeah,
and Alfa
that's
decided to join the grid themselves. That's
That's
great
actually an upgrade.
That was
Yeah.
probably the right move. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. The original Carlson featured a Hewland FGA gearbox with only 5 gears, even though some Cosworth teams used 6-speed transmissions, and the team had a contract with Goodyear, but since they were late to the grid and only had a little cash, they received the leftover rubber that nobody wanted.
Oh, good.
Huh.
Jesus.
That's pathetic.
And then they tried to make the tires better, but each time they got worse.
Every mechanic chewed a pack of gum and stuck the gum to the tires before the race.
Some had no experience with gum before.
I'm supposed to swallow it, right?
No! Finally, the inexperienced engineers neglected to consider the pitch and dive phenomenon of a car under braking, which rendered ground effects, well, no.
So, from what I'm getting from that is that the angle of their ground effects wasn't correct, basically.
Uh-huh.
So, like, when the car, like the nose, the weight transfers the front, the nose is diving.
Yeah.
Is that, wow. Okay. Yeah, that's something you want to consider.
Yeah, so it was back to the drawing board for them. A second prototype was produced, made significantly bulkier and longer to fit a larger fuel tank. Driver Harold Ertl crashed the car during testing at Hockenheim, claiming that the brakes had failed. After an enraged Carlson discovered that an amateur cameraman had filmed the accident, he bought the reel from him for 100 Deutschmarks. So, needless to say, things were going well. Now, around this time, it became clear that Carlson was the seat that drivers had to avoid, and the FISA was reluctant about even allowing Carlson into the 1979 championship. But the latter's decision most likely had to do with Carlson's $30,000 entrance fee check bouncing.
Ugh.
Oh my God.
Embarrassing.
No, try it again. Try it again.
It's a check.
I just used my card at the gas station. Like, why is
Yeah,
it?
this is
it's
a
like,
check.
Ugh, let me call my bank.
After the check bounced, do you have Apple Pay? After the check bounced, driver Patrick Neve left the team along with his sponsors, so Carlson turned around and blamed the sponsors for the team's financial problems, and then the sponsors denied that they had ever worked with the ill-fated team. I don't even know that guy. That's awesome. In January of 1979, driver Gianfranco Brancatelli signed on to pilot the singular Carlson seat, and after making adjustments to the second prototype, the Carlson team finally made its debut at the Aurora F1 round at Zolder with a car named the WK004, which stood for the whitest kids you know, 004.
Oh, that was a great year for Whitest Kids You Know.
Yeah, it was, really. They were probably founded in 04. Anyway, the WK004 had a rear wing mounted in the traditional position, and the whole chassis was 9 inches longer than its first iteration. It was clear that Carlson had given up on trying to master ground effects, reverting to the wing car concept instead. After an unremarkable debut, Team Carlson entered the first World Championship at the Spanish GP, having finally paid their entrance fee.
Thing looks like a Batmobile.
Yeah, it's pretty like a lame Batmobile.
Yeah.
However, their late entry to the championship left Carlson without a pit. God, guys, they don't have a
What?
pit.
Oh my God.
And Brancatelli was left to qualify with old Goodyear race tires rather than qualifiers. It was only with Bernie Eccleston's help that Carlson brokered a deal with Lotus to get half of a pit garage, but it was no use. Unsurprisingly, Brancatelli was the slowest of the 27 entries with only 24 spots on the grid. At the next race in Belgium, Brancatelli's results got no better. He was the slowest of 28 entrants, over 13 seconds behind Jacques Lefils Legier on pole, and 6.65 seconds behind the 27th place car.
Oh my God.
Finally, acknowledging the elephant in the room, the elephant being a shitty car and a lack of funding, Kusum finally decided to relinquish his dream of running a successful Formula One team. But not before trying one last time to buy some used Lotus 79s, only to find that he was outbid by a different team owner.
That's just how it goes, man.
You know what they say? That's F1, baby.
That is.
I think
F1,
baby.
This
This is important that we highlight these stories because so many times we're just talking about like this team didn't think they were gonna win and they gave everything they got and they got, like a decent place. These are like all the stories you never hear about, like how many failures happen in Formula One.
Yeah.
Like these are the worst ones, obviously, but most people fail.
Mm-hmm. In general, most people fail.
What a uplifting and an optimistic take.
Listen, you should try, but you're probably going to fail.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean you
Right.
shouldn't try again.
Well, if you fail, you should definitely try again.
Yeah.
Can't give up.
You gotta learn from your mistakes instead of just going about it like a bootleg Richard Branson.
Yeah, you can't be a bootleg Richard Branson.
By the 1970s, the Eiffelen von Wagenbau Company had been a well-known caravan manufacturer in Germany for several decades, run by Gunther Henrici. Eager to expand his success into even more success, Henrici began sponsoring F2 and F3 teams and signed on to back the established F1 sports car driver Rolf Stommelen, who had put in some promising drives during the 1970 and 1971 seasons. Then in 1972, Henrici and his team manager Heinz Koblešek approached the self-described visionary designer Luigi Colani to build a chassis for Stommelen during the 1972 Grand Prix season.
Wow,
A lot of names.
Good job, man.
Yeah,
That's a
you
lot
got
of
through it.
multi-syllabic names.
I would have stumbled on Rolf.
Kalani's philosophy on design was eccentric, to say the least, as the designer was absolutely obsessed with all things round.
I can relate.
Hey.
You know what I mean?
Hey.
Hey,
Hey.
that money pit got me excited yesterday.
What is that, a plate? What is that, a standard plate? Nice.
He's just losing his mind as cars go by on the freeway. Like I said, all things round. Kalani proclaimed proudly, "The earth is round. All the heavenly bodies are round. They all move on round or elliptical orbits. Why should I join the straying mass who want to make everything angular? I'm going to pursue Galileo Galilei's philosophy. My world is also round."
He sounds like an Austin Powers villain.
Yeah.
Oh.
This is at a time when like wedge cars were just coming up, so I'm sure
Yeah.
this
I
was
get
a
it.
response to that.
Yeah, despite his somewhat self-congratulatory nature, Kalani was actually good at this round guru thing. Over the years, he had designed Fiats, the Kalani Alpha, which is the first sports car to lap the old Nürburgring in under 10 minutes, the BMW 700, which was the first monocoque sports car, the Kalani GT kit car, and the Mazda Miata MX-5.
Whoa.
Very interesting. Outside of cars, he designed furniture, a teapot. He raced catamarans. He designed a plastic sports airplane. He designed the
What's
Canon
a sports airplane?
like a racing plane. I don't know.
Like a plane that you use for sports.
Yeah, you play
Are you
football
paying
with it.
attention, dude?
Yeah.
Did
Oh,
you
is that
drop out?
that's
before
what the
kindergarten?
Dude Perfect guys dropped a basketball out of the sports plane and
Yeah.
Dude
Yeah,
Perfect.
the guy that looks like Bradley Cooper was like, I love flying.
It's a plane with mesh and a number on it.
He also designed the Canon T90 camera, a an assortment of pens, Sony headphones, Swiss Air uniforms, frames, jewelry, a computer mouse, cosmetics, glasses, more computers, pianos, microphones, and even bathroom showers. This guy did it all, and all of them had delicious curves, okay?
Dude, I'm complete
this
180
guy.
on this guy.
I
Yeah,
love this guy.
I was kind of goofing on him before.
I came
but
up
this
with
guy
a-
rules.
He's pretty cool. I came up with a good name for his autobiography. My Curvy Life.
That's my Instagram bio. Welcome to my curvy life. Kalani turned his mind to F1 bodywork, inspired more by instinct than technical skills. What he came up with turned everyone's head. The first prototype featured a swooping one-piece rear wing, a one-piece cockpit incorporating an airbox in the front, a creative one-piece front wing with additional cooling ducts, and a periscope-inspired mirror that rose right up from the front of the cockpit. While the machine looks snazzy on the outside, the components were basically a March 721 F1 car with a Cosworth V8 and Goodworth tires. Unfortunately for Kalani, who liked to brag to the media that other designers didn't understand aerodynamics,
Oh, God.
initial testing showed that while the car was fast, it did not generate enough downforce, and the front and rear wings were causing overheating issues. By the time the Eifeland Type 21 appeared in South Africa for the second round of the 1972 World Championship, Kalani's design were all but stripped from the car, except for the cockpit bodywork and the periscope mirror. Stammelmann put on a solid performance behind the wheel and ended the weekend in 13th place, 2 laps down. Changes to the car were made before the next race in Spain, and the Type 21 arrived sporting a predominantly blue color scheme, a single plane rear wing, additional small side pods, and a chisel-style nose cone with small front wings. In Spain, Stammelmann maintained a respectable 16th place until an accident occurred just 15 laps into the Grand Prix. Stammelmann continued to impress during the season. He saw 10th at Monaco, not bad, 11th in Belgium, and 16th in France, and 10th at Brands Hatch. Good for him. But unfortunately, the team's relative success was not to continue. Henrici's investment had not helped his caravan sales in the way he expected, and in turn, he sold the business to someone with zero interest in racing. Like so many other one-season wonders, the funds to run Eifeland dried up, and the team decided to call it quits after Stammelmann experienced engine troubles during the Austrian Grand Prix. I gotta see what this thick car looks like.
It's
The
tight.
periscope rear view mirror is pretty crazy.
It's a really cool looking car.
At first, I was like, that would get in your way, but that's basically what F1 cars have nowadays with the Halo.
Whoa, this is very strange looking.
Right?
What's the prototype look like, though?
So the blue ones are what they ended up with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kalani
And
F1
then-
car.
Is it the white one? Whoa, the white one's
It's got to
crazy
be
as
that white
hell.
one. Yeah.
Well, they're the same car. So the white one was like when it first came out,
Yeah.
that like overheated and stuff.
Yeah, I could see why.
That looks like a Hot Wheels
It
cookie
does.
car.
It looks like
But
a
dude,
Hot
look at
Wheels
the
car.
green one.
Yeah, the green one is wild.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right, Kalani. Maybe you're all right.
I'm gonna go on eBay after this and see if I can find a Kalani F1 car to hang on the wall. As any Formula One fan knows, racing expensive, two-of-a-kind cars is a billionaire's game. Much like hunting the most dangerous game of all, humans.
Okay.
That's a billionaire's game, too.
Hunting humans from a helicopter.
As any Formula One fan knows, racing expensive two-of-a-kind cars is a billionaire's game. So it's understandable that the many first-season teams have fallen by the wayside due to financial issues. Others have become clear examples of how not to run a team, like Eric Broadley's Lola. Lola was founded by Broadley in 1958 and had been building cars for other Formula One teams since the 60s. Then, all of a sudden, in 1996, Broadley put together a $35 million sponsorship deal with MasterCard with the aim of entering the World Championship in 1998. The MasterCard deal was said to be innovative in that it depended upon using Lola's racing activities to draw in customers to the credit card program. But MasterCard pushed Lola to begin racing in 1997, which meant that the design would have to be fast-tracked. You know,
Oh.
something that is very good for machines as deeply complicated as a Formula One car.
Oh, yeah.
Despite the limitations, Broadly confidently claimed that MasterCard Lola had the experience, the commitment, and the desire to succeed in F1. We have taken the best ideas from specialists in the wind tunnel, aerodynamics, vehicle dynamics, and the like to produce the final machine. His words never quite matched up to reality. A deal was struck to run Ford Z-Tech R V8s and Bridgestone tires, and Vincenzo Sospiri and Riccardo Rosset signed on to drive. When the T97-30 launched in February, there was only time for brief testing before the cars were shipped to Australia for the first round of the 1997 championship. However, even that hurried testing showed that the MasterCard Lola cars were going to be slow, which is the opposite of what you want in this game.
Mm-hmm.
The T97-30 couldn't generate enough mechanical or aerodynamic grip, and thus couldn't get the tires to the correct temperatures. Sospiri and Rosset reported that the car had too much drag in a straight line and couldn't generate enough downforce through turns, compromising the cornering speed as well. And as a result, neither car qualified to race in the Australian Grand Prix.
Wow.
The drivers headed to Brazil with expectations that the cars would receive new parts and stronger development, as well as an in-house built V10 engine. However, once they arrived, they read the newspapers that their team had entirely collapsed.
Oh, God.
Lola's Grand Prix team had built up £6 million in debt, half of which was owed to its parent company, Lola Cars. The sponsorship program with MasterCard had not helped at all. Lola Cars went into receivership and was only saved when Martin Bahrain bought the company from Broadly. And that, as they say, was that.
Not good.
Yeah, that guy didn't even design any pens.
Yeah.
It sucks that he was in Formula One forever, and then just because like MasterCard wanted him to hurry this shit up, like he kind of ruined his name.
Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah, man, credit card companies, you can't trust them.
Yeah. Do you know like in donut meetings, it's impossible to not use the phrase like wheelhouse and up to speed, and every time there's like a little bit of a cringe when you say it. You're like, oh, this is the best way to say this, but I know it's, this is what we do. Do you think MasterCard is like the same way when they're like,
give me some credit?
Yeah, we have a lot of interest in this. Like, let's charge ahead with a design. Oh God.
Well, the MasterCard deal was just he got a MasterCard. And
it wasn't
built
even
a race car.
It wasn't
with
even like a platinum. It was like a reserve sapphire.
Yeah, he got a MasterCard Sapphire and bought a race car with it.
Big thanks to Gabby Insurance for sponsoring this episode of Past Gas. There are hundreds of companies out there claiming to compare auto and home insurance rates, but there's only one who actually does it. Get a better insurance with Gabby. And I know because I've done it. Gabby is the one true comparison platform with fast, verifiable quotes, not ballpark guesses. Not throwing darts, SNL style at a cork board. Use your current policy to find a better policy, comparing your current coverage with 40 of the top insurance providers like Progressive, Nationwide, and Travelers, all in one place. Use your current insurance information to get started. It's free, and they only show policies that are the same or better than your current coverage, many with a lower price. I really liked how easy Gabby was to use. All I did was put my insurance information in, and I was able to see and compare a bunch of different insurance policies that compared with my current one, and I love how much money they were able to save me. And it's true, I was paying more than I needed to, so Gabby really helped me out. Gabby customers save $961 per year on average, and they'll never sell your info, so no annoying spam or robocalls. Lord knows we get too many of those already. So put your policy to the test like I did. Get a better insurance with Gabby. G-A-B-I, get it? Get a better insurance. It's totally free to check, and there's no obligation. Go to Gabby.com/gas. That's GABI.com/GAS. Gabby.com/gas. Thank you, Gabby. Hey, big thanks to Valvoline for sponsoring this episode of Past Gas. In case you didn't hear me before, Valvoline is the original motor oil. Not only were they the first patented motor oil brand, they've also had many firsts in the industry, like the first high mileage oil, the first synthetic blend, and the first racing oil. And since the 1860s, they have never stopped innovating. They're constantly reinventing formulas to provide the ultimate protection for every engine on the road today. In fact, every motor oil Valvoline makes has recently been reformulated to provide 40% better wear protection than industry standards. They're going above and beyond, and that's why I use Valvoline in my car. I know that everything has been tested. I know it's going to be reliable, consistent. That's why I love Valvoline. It's proven to maximize engine life by fighting the 4 main causes of engine breakdown. That's heat, friction, wear, and deposits. But another reason we love Valvoline? They're synonymous with some of the racing greats. We're talking Mark Martin, Cale Yarborough, AJ Foyt, and NASCAR Cup champion Chase Elliott. So do yourself a favor and make sure you choose Valvoline next time you go and get oil. Head over to valvoline.com/original to find the right oil for your engine. And thank you, Valvoline.
When introducing newcomers to Formula One, one question tends to get asked: where is the Lamborghini? From 1989 to 1993, Lamborghini worked the F1 grid as an engine supplier, and for one ill-fated season, as a chassis maker themselves, as Lambo Modena in 1991. In 1987, Chrysler bought Lamborghini, and Chrysler president Lee Iacocca wanted them to enter Formula One as an engine constructor. He appointed former Ferrari team manager Daniel Audetto to oversee a new group called Lamborghini Engineering, and brought on Mauro Forgieri, who you might remember from earlier in this episode, who had been instrumental in the 1970s and 1980s at Ferrari. In 1989, Lamborghini participated as an engine supplier for both the Larousse and Lotus teams, as they were the only maker of the V12 engine at the time. Everyone else on the grid had V8s. Lotus had a kind of crummy chassis, and Larousse had an excellent season. In 1991, Lambo looked to expand their influence and opted not to continue working with either Lotus or Larousse. One of their new takers was Ligier, and the other was a new team called GLAS, financed by Mexican businessman Fernando Gonzalez Luna to the tune of $20 million. Lamborghini was excited to expand its contributions to include GLAS's chassis design, a first for the company, and got to work. Forgieri and Mario Tolentino designed a prototype, and by the summer of 1990, it was ready to be tested. The one problem? Well, Luna disappeared with the money. Despite this $20 million financial hole, Lamborghini were determined to move forward with their engine and chassis. Toward the end of the year, the Lamborghini 291 with a distinctive dark blue chassis was tested, and the team was entered for the 1991 World Championship as Scuderia Modena SPA, rather than just Lamborghini, which was confusing for everybody. Allegedly, Lamborghini didn't want to put their name on the car, as the car maker didn't want to affect its brand image, win or lose, but fans still most commonly refer to the ill-fated constructor as Lambo Modena, which brings us back to the opening of the show. Lambo Modena hired 2 strong drivers, Nicola Larini and Eric Van de Poel, and their season started off with a bang. Unfortunately, it was all downhill from there. By the time the team reached Silverstone, the 8th Grand Prix in the season, Lambo's record was a 7th, a 9th, a technical disqualification, and 13 did not qualify.
Sheesh.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sad
At the-
sheesh.
Yeah. At the same time, Lambo Modena had run up huge debts and was in money trouble as early as the Canadian Grand Prix, which was the 5th race on the schedule, partially due to their inability to attract much sponsorship. The rest of the season shook out similarly, with a smattering of did not qualifies and a single finish in 16th place at the Hungaroring. All in all, it was a disappointing season. The team ended its run with its maiden season, as Forgieri thought it was best to concentrate on what Lamborghini did well, and that was making motors for other cars. Dang.
Well, these teams all failed to succeed in Formula One. They each failed in their own way, like delicate, oil-filled snowflakes of disaster. Andrea Moda went totally off the rails thanks to their oddball, probably coked-out boss. Life and Cowson had equipment so janky they may have been better off building their cars from odds and ends collected from the trash island that lives in the Pacific. With top-of-the-line equipment and unsubstantial funding, Ayman's eyes were bigger than his stomach. Eifenland flew too close to the sun with the Galileo-loving Kalani's designs. The only race MasterCard Lola won was rushing through development to the grid, and Lambo didn't have enough money to keep up after their disappointing first season. What we've learned today is perhaps something we've known all along. Competing in F1 is expensive. Building cars is hard, and it's a true miracle that anything ever works at all.
That's true.
Well said. It does make like successful teams like Mercedes and Red Bull and Ferrari, you know, all that more impressive.
Yeah.
100%.
Speaking of Red Bull and Mercedes, are you following this pit stop
Oh
thing going on right now? That's kind of annoying.
it's really
that
stupid. So is that for real that like they're limiting how fast they can be?
Yeah, Mercedes is pissed off that Red Bull has the world record for pit stops, and they actually like make up time in their pit stops. So they've put in what is it called? A discrepancy. A technical directive with the FIA.
They can't be faster than 2 seconds. Is that it, basically?
Yeah, and that's bull.
That's really stupid, and it's an insult to all the pit crews that practice so hard to get their times down.
And it's so hypocritical because Mercedes, you know, last year or the year before was like, everyone else is complaining because we're winning. If they want to compete, they should just be faster. And now they're losing and they're complaining.
Yeah.
All racing teams are just babies.
Yeah. But I understand it. You have to use every single ounce of leverage to your advantage. You have to find every loophole. It's going to happen where there's...
Well, I think like every team should just like protest, except for Mercedes, of course. But like, it's just so not sporting. It's so dumb.
Yeah, it's not sporting.
It's not.
Yeah.
Well, what do you guys think? We have an email now. We finally entered the 20th century, the late 20th century. We have an email. It's passgas@donutmedia.com. Send us an email. Let us know what you think about the Mercedes technical directive. And maybe we'll read one of your emails on air, like this one from Sam. Big fan of the channel and the podcast. In fact, I think Past Gas is a genius podcast and really helps me expand my car knowledge and history knowledge.
Wow.
Nice. I want to know how the Toyota AE86 became so popular today. Was it Initial D? Those drift videos? Its racing success? I want to know, how did it get the name that the car has today, and if it helped other JDM legends get their spotlight in the U.S. I think you answered your own question.
Sam, you're a lot smarter than you think, man.
Yeah. So, yep. All of those things.
Well, there was the Kaiichi Tsuchiya video, the Plus B drift video, which kind of permeated, was like the beginning of drift culture almost, you know, or at least helped bring it to a more wider audience.
And then rumor has it that Initial D was loosely based on his experiences and his life, like Takumi is Teachy.
Yeah, is that a rumor though? Like I think
he was a technical consultant on the show.
Yeah.
But he didn't deliver tofu. He delivered machined parts for his dad.
No, come on. Like,
no, that's real.
What? Oh,
dude, I was writing an episode on Keiichi that never made it to air.
Yeah.
Well then.
So yeah.
Dang, Kaiichi Tsuchiya and I have a lot more in common than I thought before this conversation.
Anyway, Sam, thanks for listening.
Thanks for your email, Sam. I love having my ego inflated like that all the time.
Yeah, thank you guys for listening. Am I doing the outro? Is that what's happening
whoa,
right now?
what's this?
Dude,
Get in there.
Thanks for listening. Please tell your friends and your family about this podcast if you liked it. Follow us on Instagram. Follow Nolan at Nolan J. Sykes. Follow James at James Pumphrey. Follow me at Joe G. Weber. And Wink Wink Nation, keep it juiced.
Be kind.
Rewind.
No one's gonna. It's an audio format now. No one's gonna know.
Rewind.
Yeah. But you turn into Sloth from Goonies. And then...
Hey, you guys.